Welcome to the Charity Lounge podcast. It's going to be a very interesting conversation today. Why is that? Because I have someone who is one, amazing in the room, two, she's walked my journey and I can relate 100%, in fact 1000% with her story. For those that don't know, this has to do with birthing, so maternal health, maternal journey. And some of you that didn't know some aspects of my journey as a mom would get to hear a bit today. Today, I have with me Sade Adesakin in the room. She is a structurepreneur. I think it was on your page I first saw that structurepreneur, and she has she has found purpose in her pain. And let's just hear a story from her. So I would have her introduce herself, what she does, who she is. So welcome to the Charity Lounge podcast.
Thank you for having me, Tolu. Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be talking to you today. I'm excited even.
Same here.
Yes. So, yes, as you rightly said, my name is Sade Adesakin. I run a business called Structurepreneur. And I also have two charities, one in Nigeria called Victoria Smile Foundation and one here in the UK, which is new, called Victoria Smile UK. So our focus is, especially the Nigerian army, is on maternal health. We've been doing that for 6 years, supporting women through pregnancy, birth, and after birth. And, we've even partnered with other organizations to help the children with education and also support the women, empower the women. So that's what I do on a day to day, and I absolutely love that.
Okay.
The reason for the charities is because of my journey, which I've shared with you. Trying for a baby for almost 15 years, and thank God today I'm blessed with my beautiful daughter Oluwaloni Victoria, hence the Victoria Smile Foundation.
Yeah. Because I was just going to ask you the question: why? What happened? Why a lot of people start to do charity work or they start their businesses as a result of their experiences, and you already answered that question.
Yes.
So you were married for up to 15 years.
Almost 15
years before you had your daughter.
Yes.
But then how was your journey? Because your journey was it just miscarriages?
No.
Was it
It wasn't just miscarriages.
When we were talking and you said I said I'd suffered 3 second trimester miscarriages, and you were like, not miscarriages, because for those that don't know, when you're in your second trimester, it means you're far gone. You're almost there.
Yeah.
So when you have to go through the whole birthing journey, you go through the 9 yards of it. You go through labor, you have the baby. In some cases, you go through labor and then have the baby.
Yeah.
But in some cases where your cervix has been stitched, you get that out and then you go into labor to have the baby. So tell us about your journey.
Okay.
The journey that gave birth to Victoria Smile.
Okay, that gave birth to Victoria Smile.
Yeah.
So as I said, we tried for a baby for quite a long time. Within the first year of our marriage, we knew that there was a problem because there was family history there so I went into my marriage actually scared that I would have fertility issues. So my poor husband, within a year of us being married, I started going around different fertility clinics. We started our fertility treatments quite early. So for those 15 years, we had a lot of procedures. We had about 9 IUIs. I did IVF 5 times, numerous other procedures. Sometimes I even self-medicated, which I shouldn't have done because it was a very desperate situation for me. So it was a very long journey of just trying different things. 11 years into our marriage of doing constant fertility treatments, and at that time I think we'd had 4 or 5 miscarriages. One day my husband just said to me that no more fertility treatments, that he couldn't handle it. And funny enough, that was a turning point, because from that point of it was like you have to fully depend on God now. Like you're not going to walk this journey by yourself on your own understanding. And not long after that, we started to get pregnant naturally for the first time in our marriage. We got pregnant the first time. Again, it wasn't a happy ending. While I was pregnant, was the first time I heard of something called incompetent cervix.
I was going to ask that.
Yeah.
Did you know it was incompetent
I
cervix?
didn't.
At what point did you know it was incompetent cervix?
So when we had the natural pregnancy, I think 4 months in, we went for a routine scan, and then the doctor said to me that my cervix was short. I was like, what does that mean? He said it's supposed to be this millimeters, this millimeters.
Yeah.
And he recommended us doing what was called the McDonald stitch at the time. And obviously
12 weeks?
Yes. No, at that time we were over 12 weeks.
Oh, okay.
So we did this the McDonald stitch, which was fine. There was no infections or anything. The pregnancy was progressing well. Then we came, that was in Nigeria. Then I came to the UK because I was like, this baby, I have to have rest fully. Anyway, again, another scan, I heard of something called funneling. So because they sewn your cervix, but it was opening, but the only thing keeping your cervix shut was a stitch.
Yeah.
Again, because these are terms that I was just hearing for the first time. I wasn't panicked, but looking at the doctors' faces, you could see that this wasn't normal, but they won't want to tell you like this might not end well. A couple of weeks, I think I was maybe 21 weeks or something like that, I started bleeding. Ambulance came, rushed to the hospital to, we lost the baby. I actually gave birth to her and she was alive for about 40 minutes before she passed. That was it was at the time the most traumatic experience of my life. I didn't think it was something I could get over. And that was the first time I heard of something called incompetent cervix.
Okay. But
what happened after is that there was another situation where, again, 21 weeks, did the McDonald stitch. It didn't hold, lost the baby. At this point, the baby actually died before I could have him.
Yeah.
And you still have to go into labor and go through all of that. It was one thing where the other experience, she was alive, I had her, I was hopeful, even though I was naive because she was only 21 weeks, the chances of her surviving very slim. But the boy, that it was already confirmed that he had died.
Yeah.
In fact, when they said, oh, we have to kind of progress labor now and take it, I said I wanted to sit with him for a while. Like, I didn't want to go through that process. Now, what was difficult about that is that my body was already going through a very severe infection, which was sepsis. And all of a sudden, I was talking to my sister 1 minute. The next minute, I'd gone into shock, emergency everywhere. They took me to theater. The baby had to come out. And at this point, they're fighting for your life, not just your baby's life. And I remember, obviously, they put me to sleep. I woke up. And I woke up because I heard voices saying, there's nothing we can do for her anymore. We've tried our best. Her blood pressure is so low. At this point, I was swollen. It was like I was 2 or 3 times my size. And I just came to, and I was like, nothing you can do for her. How? And so they were happy that I was awake, and they told me how serious my condition was. And they were trying their best. At this point, can we have your next of kin's details? We're going to move you to ICU. It's very serious. And I was in Canada at this point. And I remember, because I when I had the loss with my daughter then, I just couldn't stay in the UK. I didn't want to go to Nigeria. And my sister just said, come to me, I'll take care of you. My elder sister. So I was in Canada at this point. And I remember just when they said, can we have your next of kin's details? My sister has 4 kids. I was like, you're not going to call her and get on the motorway. It's pretty late. I don't want her to have an accident. So I said, no, I don't have a next of kin. Because I didn't want anything to happen to my sister. And they said, you must have somebody that will care for you. I said, I don't want you to call anybody. Just leave me. In my mind, I was like, if I was going to die, let me just die. I don't want to take anybody along with me. Anyway, somehow they'd reached her. Obviously, they checked their records, and then she came and she said, we went to ICU, and the pain in my body, I can't even describe it, because you have an infection in your bloodstream. Everything was hurting. So anyway, I was in ICU for a couple of weeks, just obviously fighting for my life. And by the grace of God, I came out of that. But it felt like a very hopeless situation, because at this point it was back to back. It's one thing having first trimester losses. But when you're having children that aren't surviving because of something called an incompetent cervix, you're like, so the baby is fine.
In my own case, I didn't even know that the first one happened at 24 weeks.
Okay.
And they were like, oh yeah, miscarriage, blah blah blah, let's try again. And they actually said to me that they were suspecting it was incompetent cervix. So
Okay.
it wasn't, they were not like definite
Certain.
sure that, oh yeah, it's incompetent cervix. So next time we would plan to put in the stitch at, I can't even remember if it was 12 weeks or 14 weeks. I can't remember which one now. And by the time I got pregnant the second time, I was carrying on and I was fine. But then they hadn't put in the stitch because they just hadn't put in the stitch. They didn't, there was no arrangement to put in the stitch. And I landed in the hospital. By the time I did, they found that I was already dilating at that point, and they had to do an emergency stitch at that point. It was immediately I got the stitch and I was taken back into the hospital, into the room. I was sick and my temperature went over the roof. Long story short, it was sepsis. It was sepsis, and they had to wheel me back into the theater to take out the stitch, and then started the whole. It's. I don't think it's a journey anybody should go through.
No.
And in the UK, I think you must have suffered up to two or
a couple
three
of miscarriages
before you're referred to a specialist to look into the matter for you. But it's in my own case too. I had three. I had 2 live births and 1 stillbirth. The pain. So what was really painful for you? Was it the physical pain, the emotional pain?
So
Because it comes with a lot of.
Yeah, so what was painful for me was, because don't forget that I had 5 early first trimester miscarriages. So it feels like it's just blood. You know, you're connecting to the baby, you've seen the heartbeat, but it doesn't feel real.
Yeah.
But when you have losses of a child, you know, you've been probably told the sex at this point. You're expecting a girl, you're expecting a boy.
In my own case, they had to bury them. Like, we had to do a proper funeral.
So the first one, we named her Titolua, because we'd already named her at this point, because she was the most real. And I couldn't fathom the fact that, so there was nothing wrong with my child. My body failed me.
So you felt your body failed you?
I felt my body failed me.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, you've been through all this, it's been so long. Now you're here and you can't even carry the baby to term. So it was devastating. I can't even put into words. So 4th of February was when this happened, 2015, right? 11 years ago. Every 4th of February, I get up, I get dressed, I wear my makeup, regardless of what I'm going through, and I say a prayer for her every 4th of February till this day, because it's a day that I would never forget. That feeling of, you would have been here if not for.
Yes.
You know, it's not something I wish on anybody. And I thought that was the worst until it happened again. The second time it happened, this time it was worse, because there wasn't a fighting chance. He died before I had a chance to even meet him.
For the purpose of those that don't know what incompetent cervix is, I know that we kind of said it.
Yeah.
But what is incompetent cervix?
Incompetent cervix happens. I mean, it's only diagnosed in pregnancy. That's what I was told. I'm not a doctor or anything. I can only talk from lived experience. And usually when you're pregnant, your cervix is supposed to be short so that it protects your baby, no infection gets there, and it holds your pregnancy up. But if it's loose, it can't hold your pregnancy to term. So the procedures are done in pregnancy to support that, which we've had the McDonald's stitch. Both of us have spoken about this, which is a temporary stitch. They go in, stitch you up so that it holds your pregnancy. Now, for some of us, that doesn't work. So that's why, even despite the stitch, you can still have a miscarriage.
Yeah.
And I did it twice, and both times
I did it twice as well. And both times it introduced the infection into me.
Yeah.
My body.
So it doesn't always carry your baby to term. So hence how we found out about transabdominal cerclage.
Okay, so before we go to that, so there are 2 types of stitches or cerclages. So there's the transabdominal one.
Yes.
which is the TAC,
Mhm.
which we both have, by
Yeah.
the way. So when you see people going on the streets, sometimes they're carrying things that you
Yeah.
don't know anything about.
Mhm.
And there's the TVC,
Mhm.
which is the transvaginal
Oh,
cerclage. Yeah.
is that a type of McDonald's stitch?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
So there's two.
I
I
hope
know
that
there's one called Shirodika. I've heard of
the
Shirodika
Shirodka,
and
yeah.
McDonald's stitch. See, I was
Yeah.
talking like doctors, but
Yeah.
that's what we had to learn.
Yeah.
So those are
I
both of
think
them are
those
transvaginal.
yeah, they
Okay.
go through, yeah.
Okay, so
Those,
there's two types of the transvaginal one, and
yeah.
then there's
I
the
hope we're saying the right thing. Please
well,
check with
we're
your
not doctors.
doctor.
Disclaimer.
Check with your doctor. We're just
Yeah.
talking from experience.
Yes.
Yeah, I know McDonald's. I know there's the Shirodka.
Yeah.
I don't now know if they are both the same or
No, I
called.
think they're not. That's why
Okay.
they have two different names, and it might have to do with who creates. You know, in medicine,
Oh,
how
yeah,
it's
yeah,
like who created the
yeah.
whatever. So I think
Yes.
it's named
But
after.
the thing is
Mm,
with the TAC, so I also had fibroids.
okay.
So in my own case, the consultant wasn't sure if it was the fibroids introducing the infection into my body,
Okay.
and she didn't want to take chances.
Okay.
So she was like, you know what, let's take out the fibroids.
Mhm.
And wherever you are, Miss Coca, I love you. I love you. You know that I love you. Like, the woman saved my life.
Mm,
Because at the time I had the third miscarriage, she came in and was emotional.
mm,
She was like, I need to save someone in this room. And I have two options. It's either I save you and lose the baby, or I save the baby and lose you.
mm,
But the thing is this, if I save you, you can give me another child.
mm,
You know, she thought I was going to carry to term at that time, because the way I'm looking at you, if we're not careful, you might suffer a heart attack or something, because I was pale. I'd become very, very pale. Yeah. So I don't think there's any woman that should go through this now. And the TAC,
mm.
I don't think is popular.
So it's not popular. I mean, I had the procedure in 2016. As I said, when after I lost the baby, I had the sepsis.
Mhm.
My follow-up appointment with the doctor, I was in Canada at the time, and we're talking about what to do next. Obviously, my mission was I had to have a child,
Mhm.
you know. And the guy said to me that there's a procedure that have you heard of transabdominal cerclage? At that point, I'd never. I said no, and he goes on to explain to me how you can have it before you get pregnant, or even during pregnancy, the early stages of your
Oh, can they
pregnancy.
do it during
Yes, they can
pregnancy?
have
Oh,
it.
really?
You can have it during the early stages. And we can offer you here. There's options all over the place. And I was like, but I lived in the UK for so long. I'd never heard of this procedure. And I lived in Nigeria as well. I didn't hear about it. So it was interesting that I had to go all the way to Canada to find this out. Anyway, it stuck in my mind and I started researching. And I moved on, I left Canada, came back to the UK, spoke to my GP about it. I heard about, I was in the UK, I had this law, I was in Canada, I had this loss. Have you heard about it? My GP said no, that he'd never heard about it. So at that point, I made up my mind to do it privately. So I researched and I found the doctor in the States. So I went to do it to the States. And it was a doctor called Dr. Haney. I'm sure he's retired by now. This was 11 years ago. Had the procedure, and that procedure, by the grace of God, that procedure changed my life. My pregnancy was the easiest pregnancy ever. From the time I found out I was pregnant. In fact, I was so used to going to hospitals. I remember there was a day there was nothing happening. I think I was about 18 weeks pregnant. No, this pregnancy is too easy. I called the doctor and I said, there's something wrong with me. You have to scan. You have to do this. You have to, check myself into hospital. Excuse me. Make sure they admitted me because I was so nervous.
Yeah.
And the baby was fine.
Yeah. But why do you think a lot of women don't know about this? Because as you just said, when I was pregnant with my second child, it was my consultant before then that had my first, and the 3 previous miscarriages had relocated. and left the UK. So first I had anxiety that, oh, am I going to die now? This woman
Left
is
me.
gone, she's left me. And she was like, no, 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 don't be anxious. There's nothing to be worried about. You have your TAC, it's intact. Just go there, tell them that this has been done. So when I got to the hospital to see my new consultant, I said to her that I had something already done. And she was like, no, you do it when you're 12 weeks pregnant. Da, da, da. And I'm like, I'm a full grown adult. I know that something had been done. And she had argued with me until she did a scan and saw it. I was like, oh, whoever did this made our lives easier, So why is it that a lot of people don't know about it? That's the first question. And the second question is, what should women be asking the doctors?
So I think the best advice that anybody ever gave me was my sister. I remember after I had the especially the second loss, and I went, I had sepsis and everything. She just said to me that you have to take responsibility for your health. I mean, not that was the first time anybody had ever said that. I guess things stick with you at different points in your journey. And I just remember that from that point, I just asked more questions. I query things more. I didn't just go with the flow. At this point, you can't, after 7 losses, like, when are you ever going to have a child if you're not the advocate? So that's why I was saying that 18 months into even a successful pregnancy, if you like, I was asking questions. So I feel like you asked me about why people don't know about it. I'm not sure I can even answer that question. I mean, for me, this was 11 years ago that I found out. I don't know what the system is now. I just think that even the specialists are not even educated in this thing. And similar to your story, when I was about to have my daughter, my consultant at the time said to me that, oh, once you go into labor, we'll just take out the stitch. I said, you can't take out the stitch. The only way this stitch can come out is the way it went in, which is through an operation. So I need to have an elective C-section.
Yeah.
And the lady was arguing with me. You know what I did?
Oh, yeah.
Old Sade would have just said, oh, maybe, they know what they're doing. I said, no. I said, refer me to the most senior person in this hospital. And she was like, oh, he's busy. I said, when is he going to be available? I know my rights in the NHS. I can ask to see anybody that I need to see. And then reluctantly, she booked me an appointment with him. When they get to that point that they're not even called doctors anymore, you have to call them Mr.
Yeah.
Sent me to this top guy in St. Mary's Hospital then. And when he saw me, he said, what's the problem? I told him, he said, oh, my colleagues are not very knowledgeable, are they? And that just stuck. Yeah. And I remember him just saying, when do you want to have your baby?
Yeah.
So I get to choose the date. I said, I get to choose the date? I said, okay. 7 is the number of perfection. I have 7, please. Because she was going to be born in September. And I selected the date. That appointment was 5 minutes.
Yeah,
because I took charge of my own.
Yeah.
They would have just left me. I would have died. My baby would have died because I couldn't have a vaginal birth.
Yeah.
Do you understand?
Yeah.
So I guess, what I'll tell anybody is ask questions. Ask as many questions. It's your body, it's your health. Ask questions if you don't know. If you're feeling uncomfortable about anything, ask.
Yeah.
If one person doesn't answer you, ask to be referred to somebody else.
Yeah.
So it's not the time to keep quiet. If you want results, it's not the time to keep quiet.
100%. Because for me, when my mucus plug went for my daughter, I'd called the hospital and I think it was a midwife who picked, and she was like, oh, when your water breaks, and I'm like, okay. So I sent my consultant at the time a text message that, oh, I think my mucus plug is gone. And she was like, go to the hospital now. Like now. So I went to the hospital. When I got there, the midwife still called me into a room, said to lie down. I did. And next thing I just started hearing, co. It was my consultant. And this was like maybe 6 a.m. Immediately she got into that room. She was like, what are you trying to do? Get the theater ready. They wanted me to wait for the water to break.
Yeah.
And then we'll start dealing with an infection or something, So I think education is very important. I know there's this thing of being extra careful in the NHS, but I think people should also take charge of your life.
You have to. It is your life, because when you're dealing with the child loss or pregnancy loss, your after that, after they give you the bad news, you're in your feelings by yourself, or maybe your partner. No, there's no doctor that is there. There's no nurse. So you don't want to get to that point, because it's such a devastating thing to lose a child, So definitely, I think that's the biggest thing for me.
Yeah.
When I had to start speaking up.
Okay.
I definitely did.
Yeah. So at what point did this turn to purpose? Because people go through stuff.
Yeah.
And they don't necessarily do anything in terms of social impact or chain making. I've had my story and that's my story. I either close it up somewhere or just live life. And I don't necessarily have to do anything because I've experienced this. So at the point where you were pregnant and you were sure that, this one, there's nothing happening to this baby, was that when you started to plan that, I need to start a foundation? I really need to give back? Or how did that happen?
I don't even think I was up until when I saw her. I wasn't sure that I will have her. I hoped that I will have her. I had faith that I will have her, but I wasn't sure. So when I was pregnant, and I was the furthest I'd ever been at that point, I just said to God that you answer me. I will spend the rest of my life helping other people, educating, doing anything. I didn't know what form it would take, but I had to hold on to something. I had to promise God something, if you like, and say to him that, just because, again, when I have this child, is evidence that you still answer prayers. I can't go around telling people that, God will support you through this journey, or, he's still in the business of answering prayers. But when there's evidence,
it's easy.
Do you understand? So I made that promise. Obviously, I don't want to say I was desperate, but I was desperate to to talk to God about things and make promises. But it was when I was pregnant that I didn't know what form it would take. But I remember just having those constant conversations with God that answer me, and I will spend the rest of my life just supporting other women through this space. And then she came, and then life moved on, because now you have a baby, you're a new mom, and but that feeling never left me, where you had made this promise to God, you better keep this promise. And a couple of years later, I was speaking to another, my husband's cousin, who had surrogacy. Because at this point, when you've gone through this journey, people that have had sort of similar experience, I remember when we both found out that we were TACers, as we called it, how excited we were. And then she told me about surrogates, that she'd had that journey, her own baby through a surrogate. And I was saying to her that, there was a promise I made to God that I was going to support other women, but I don't know how. And then she said, why don't you just register a charity? That's what you want to do. I don't think that there's anybody doing it, because it was very specific. It was women that had been through everything that had been through infertility, miscarriages, stillbirth. Do you understand? So there's a lot of maybe pregnancy loss charities. There was, there were just people doing miscarriage charities, but usually what people don't know is that sometimes when you've had one issue, you probably have other issues as well. So I was looking for specific people.
So who do you target?
So we target women that have had, again, issues with the fertility, miscarriages, or stillbirth. It can be one or a combination, right? What we do is that we support them through pregnancy and through birth and after birth. Make sure that, you have a healthy baby and support you through that. And the way the journey started is not where we are now. Things have progressed. Where now even our kids, our oldest child just turned 4 on February the 7th. And
you have how many children now?
We have 62.
62 children.
We have 62
done.
Through the support of the foundation. And that started in 2022. So again, that lady that I met, she helped, So from beginning, God just placed people in my life that have supported the cause, supported the journey. And as you said, now we're 62 children in. We even have a lady we're supporting teenage moms, because we met another lady that is passionate about that. She was a teenage mom. So,
So have you ever had any situation with incompetent cervix specifically?
I have.
Have you been able to get them to do a TAC?
So we've not TAC, But because these women, they're based in Nigeria. I know that you were the one that told me that TAC is available in Nigeria.
Oh,
I
yeah,
didn't
the
know
first
that.
doctor that
Yeah,
ever told me about it,
was in Nigeria.
a
Okay, I didn't
Nigerian
know that.
doctor.
But we've had women that we've supported through Cerclage, which is
Yeah,
the McDonald's stitch that we're talking about
yeah.
earlier. So yeah, so
It
I've
works
dealt
for
with,
some people.
yes,
So.
I've dealt with women in the charity who have had incompetent cervix, and that's the beauty about it, because I understand the journey, I understand the story, and I can support in that way. We've had people where they will recommend they do the operation, they will tell me that they can't do it, and I'm like, once they say your cervix is weak, it's not gonna, it's like the way it was explained to me. Once it's expanded, it's not gonna shrink. So this surgery is important, not just for you, not just for your child, but for you as well. You don't want to be dealing with an infection while you're pregnant. So I mean, I don't. The way I support the women is through the staff that work in the foundation, but they come to me. I know the women by name. I know the children. I don't do any of this for popularity. So I don't want them to come back and say thank you to me.
Yeah.
That's not why I do it. But the journey is, I understand the journey, so I'm very invested. I'm very involved. I do a fundraiser every year to keep the charity going. I use a lot of my own money, but it's God has placed so many people in my path to support me through that.
So one of the reasons Charity Lounge exists is for you not to be using your money.
That is it.
To do
But
stuff.
we'll get there.
So you need to walk that journey as well.
Yeah.
So what breaks your heart the most about the maternal space?
I think there's still a lot of death for both otherwise healthy children and even mothers. So there's so many, it's a systemic issue. There's so many
100%.
things that we still need to address. I mean, it's great that I've been able to support, over 60 families. In fact, we've had losses as well, as you can imagine. So we've supported over 70 families. We've had, even after the children were born, we've had them pass and so on and so forth. So I think for me, it's just, reducing deaths, and just supporting as much people, educating, because sometimes these are not, for instance, cerclages in Nigeria, to do a cerclage operation. It's not, the last one we did was about, although we partner with government hospital, was 50,000 naira. So it's not a lot of money
at all.
And if because infection is such a thing that kills, sepsis kills, and for me, it still burdens my heart that, first of all, as I said, children are dying needlessly, and even their mothers are dying needlessly. We've had a mother pass, that we've supported. So these are real issues. So yeah.
Okay. To think that I've had sepsis twice in pregnancy, and I've seen people who have had it who didn't come out. I've heard of people who I saw a woman who went into sepsis when she was pregnant, and I think she went into a coma or an induced coma. By the time she woke up, 2 of her legs had been amputated and 1 of her arm. And I'm like, I'm here. It's not because I'm better than that person or the people that have lost their lives, but I'm thankful. And I'm thankful we're having this conversation as well, because we're not better than women who have the money, have the means, probably don't have the information or the right people to help them birth their children. So it's been nice having you on the podcast today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, before you go, there's something we do. It's the fire round. It's very quick.
Okay.
So I would ask you questions. You don't have to think about the answer. Just, give the answer. But this time it's a bit different. Normally I'll ask you questions like Lagos or London.
Okay.
But because this is I want people to take as much as they can take from this conversation. Okay. So the first is, if you've just had your first loss. So if someone has just had their first loss, what would you say to them?
That's a difficult one. It's a difficult one. Because loss is such a personal thing, and we're at different points in our lives where we deal with things differently. I would just, if that person is there with me, I'll just hug them. I would just hug them. I don't want to say the wrong thing. If you're not there with me, I would ask you what you want me to do. How can I help you?
And that's wisdom, honestly, because when I was going through my journey, a lot of people said different things to me, and I feel a hug would have been better,
Yeah.
or even your presence.
Yes.
You know, people would say to me, "Oh, Tolokbe, you help children and you've been helping children for many years. It's not you that your children should be dying."
Yeah.
You know, people say hurtful things unknowingly. It's not
Yes.
from a place of,
Yes.
"Oh, I really want you to be sad or something." But then, have you heard? Sometimes just hug.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you feel alone,
Mhm.
if someone feels alone, what would you say to them?
If they feel alone in
You know, the depression, well, sometimes depression comes with
yeah.
losses, or
Yes.
yeah, is that the right way to say it?
Yeah.
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 Sometimes people feel depressed when
For
things
don't go
like
well.
that happen. What would you say to someone who feels, "Oh, I'm alone in this"? I remember saying to my husband, "My body is rejecting the children. Go and marry another woman."
Mm-hmm.
You know, because at that point I felt it was my cross to carry,
Mm-hmm.
and I shouldn't have to drag someone else into
I
my.
said exactly the same thing. That's so uncanny.
So what
I
would
said
you
exactly the
say?
same thing. If you feel alone, I think it's again, that's a difficult question because some of us have a big community around us and some of us don't. But I would ask who is around, who do you have around you?
Mm,
And I will hope that they have at least one person. And if they do, then we'll see how we can connect.
mm-hmm,
People need, we need each other. There's no, I don't think we were made to be alone.
mm-hmm,
So support is key. Who you have around you is key. And again, it's not about what you say. Just the people that have helped me the most in my journey are the people that didn't even say anything. They involved me in things, they didn't make me feel like there was something wrong with me.
mm-hmm.
It's not always about what we say. It's about just
Being
being
there.
present. Yeah.
Yeah.
Being present.
So be
Yeah.
present.
Mm.
You guys have heard it all. Be present if you're around someone going through any form of loss. And if you're the one going through loss, there's hope. There's always hope. With testimonies, I have 2 kids now. She has a daughter, and I would say no regrets. You know, we go through our journeys for certain reasons. Sometimes we don't find out until later.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes some people are lucky, they find out why they've gone through what they've gone through. But then if you're going through a hard time, having your children, whether as a result of incompetent cervix or whatever it is, find help, find a community that can support you and help you, throughout your journey. It's not, you don't have to feel alone, because a lot of women have gone through it, but because people don't generally
Talk
share
about it.
or talk about it, you find that everyone is quiet until one person says, "Oh, this happened to me." So try as much as possible to surround yourself with people,
Surround yourself with good people.
good people. So one final word, encouragement you would like to give to those watching today?
So if you're, as I said earlier, if you're somebody that has dealt with pregnancy loss, because I think that's the common ground here. If you've dealt with pregnancy loss, I think educate yourself as much as possible. Ask as many questions. Is your body, is your health, because things can go wrong. So that's what I want to leave people with. Just ask, fight for yourself, fight for your future child if you're still trying for a baby. And yeah, and I know that God is still in the business of answering prayers. He heard our prayers. So I'm so grateful that I have an 8-year-old, and I just thank God for her every day.
Yes. So for people who might want to refer people to you, is that acceptable? Is that
In
something
terms
you
of the
do?
charity.
Yes.
So we have the charity in Nigeria. We currently work a lot in Ondo State. So yes, by all means, if you're in Ondo State or you know people that need our support, we're based in Ondo State in Nigeria. The UK, we do more about well-being, motherhood support. So yes, we're on all social media platforms, and I'm sure that you're going to put the link.
Yeah.
So the Nigerian charity is called Victoria Smile Foundation, and the UK charity is called Victoria Smile UK.
So is that for women looking for a community?
The UK one is communities of women looking for community, women that are already moms, women trying to conceive, because it's not, again, I mean, we've spoken about it a lot. You don't want to be alone. Find your community, find your people that you can talk to or just even hang out with. We have physical events, we have online Zoom events that we talk about, things from trying to conceive to motherhood, topics. So just, you can find us on all social media platforms and you can connect with us.
Yeah, so I will put the details in the description down below. Thank you very much for watching. And if you haven't subscribed, again, it is very, very free, like FREE free to subscribe. Click on the subscribe button. See you next time on the Charity Lounge podcast.
See ya.